Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening to our podcast, which now has an amazing 34 live episodes, 10 of which are also on YouTube, with many more to follow, and a total of 16,000 downloads, which is crazy. And the podcast has been accessed in over 95 countries. It's amazing. Thank you so much for your continued support of our little side project. James and I are going to take a short break over the summer to rest and regroup and take on feedback from a form that we're producing. So the next episode will be live on the 27th of August. With that in mind, we've got a huge favor to ask. We want to hear from you. So please take 5 minutes to fill out our form and let us know what you think about the show and if it should continue, how could it improve, anything else you want to share, guest recommendations, all of that. We'd love to hear from you. And you can find the link to access the form in the show notes. So for this week, James and I are going to talk about some of the standout moments from previous episodes in the hopes that in this gap, you'll revisit some of the previous episodes that you might have missed or re-listen to those favorites that you found most inspiring. So it's a big thanks from us in advance for filling out the form. And now on to a brief chat about some of our best bits.
I will also say, if you do want to see Amy's very cute new dog, Satu, you can see that on YouTube. So that's another reason to check out the episodes on YouTube.
It's good in.
Yeah, I know. Very smooth. Yeah, well, I think one of the things that's most memorable for me is our episode with Tomasz Herok he's an investigator traditionally, he works in university, but anyway, he did this investigation for Open Cages UK, and I think that was one of the most moving episodes for me personally, because just hearing his stories of, very visceral and kind of disgusting and kind of traumatic situations he was in really kind of hit home for how bad the industry can be, and both like what workers have to go through, but what animals have to go through, and also there was a few sparks of really like inspiration and compassion in that, where people he worked with, other workers on the farm, kind of had also empathy for animals and showed care and tried to save some, in this case, I think it was snails, so they didn't get run over on the road. And I think, I guess that episode was a real bit of a roller coaster ride in terms of like very inspirational and huge gratitude for people like Tomasz who do the investigations. But yeah, also sad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely that human element was really interesting. A tough listen, but worthy, I think, when they're risking themselves to do that kind of role. Yeah, I think it was awesome.
Yeah. What about you? What's one of your top picks?
I guess I was thinking about the Dave episode the other day. It's had by far the most listeners. I think it's over 1,000 on its own.
His ego is going to be so big.
I know, right? Yeah. Although I did say to him, because then there's a decline. I don't know if it's like people listen to that one and go, nah, it's not for me. But yeah, I think we were super rusty in the beginning. And I remember not wanting to like make a noise on my end and not interrupt. So like there's a lot of very awkward kind of silences in that one as we sort of found our rhythm and found our feet. But nonetheless, I think the episode just was really such a good entry, like such a great conversation around this idea of, welfare and abolition. And I think because that topic comes up so often, and I see that even on like Slack channels and things, new people coming into the movement and saying, why are we working on welfare when, we should be pushing for more? I think I just found that whole episode and Dave himself just incredibly insightful. So that was an interesting one for me.
I don't know if I have some recency bias, but I do think we've had some good ones recently. And I think one that comes to mind is Tanya Luna from Scarlet Spark. And I think that I really enjoyed because I guess lots of the episodes have focused on, the ins and out of like campaigning or like strategies and tactics or something about how animals are treated, whether it's, fish or insects. And I guess Tanya's was quite nice, like general one on, what makes a good organization? Like what does good leadership and management look like? And why does it matter? So I think it was a quite nice one that's applicable to like, I think basically anyone.
Yeah.
She has amazing experience building up this company that has done this outside, like for tech companies. And I read her book recently, like right before the interview. So I just know she has a wealth of knowledge and the best practices and tips. So I guess I just learned a lot. And she's a very, almost like reassuring and like funny person to talk to. So yeah, I really enjoyed that episode.
Yeah, I totally agree. One that came to mind for me was a really early one, which was Edie Bowles from Advocates for Animals. And I think it was interesting because we learned about these like really small incremental ways to make changes. So sometimes they're working on a case that is just like setting a precedent to build up case law for animals generally. And then when it comes to like a bigger farmed animal issue, there's already that case law to refer to like for bigger cases of farmed animals. I think it's like not super sexy to work like that, right? Because you're not working on the big, like hard hitting, huge numbers, like big moments. But I think all of that groundwork is super important. So I think just like acknowledging that and recognizing that sometimes our roles in the movement aren't the big corporate relations, like big moments, big campaigning moments. There's also like so much going on in the background that's just like really paving the way for future success. So I think that was really interesting for me.
Nice. Yeah, that was a good episode. Another one for me is Doug Whaley from Your Group of Animals, talking about farmed fish primarily, as well as other like wild caught fish. I guess this one I just learned a lot. I think Doug, has been in this role for 7 years, and there was a lot of information, and I feel like I just learned a lot about the lives farmed fish lead, what we can do to help them, kind of what's currently being done to help them, our understanding of what they need. Probably one of the ones where I learned the most information. It also in ways that, it's just so relevant to, animal advocates. There's like 100 billion plus farmed fish globally. And it's, one of the areas where I think that advocacy is fairly nascent. So I guess it's like understanding what's happening to them, what we can do to help is just, for me, seems super important.
Yeah, totally. I think when someone just has like crazy subject matter knowledge, it's just always an interesting one. I think Tanya's the same when it's just like one very specific thing that they have like incredible knowledge on. And actually maybe someone, it's not necessarily like on a specific species, but I think Jaya is someone who like just has that like really intensive subject knowledge about their own area and the work that they're doing. I think super, super smart, like really great episode, just very like inspiring person, but also the work that they're doing with global food partners, the like very specific targets that they have, the new ideas that they're coming up with. I think that was another like standout one for me in that subject matter knowledge.
Yeah, Jay, I found it so funny because he gave so many market-based analogies. His whole thing is, you got to look at the temperature of the market and see how it's doing. And then you asked him, it's like, do you want to keep working the movement? And he gave a funny market-based response. I forgot what it was. It was like, he's like, it's my competitive advantage now. Like I've built up so much career capital. I may as well spend it here. There's no point going anywhere else. This is a very pragmatic answer.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very funny.
Yeah, nice. How did you find the live episode with Leah and Sharon?
Yeah, it was my first live episode. I found it a bit awkward. I don't know. It's just hard to know how to do them. I think obviously what people don't see is if we make fumbles or whatever, our lovely editors, now Tom, previous Jason, can get rid of them basically.
Yeah.
And I guess you have the scope for that. And, or just the setup, in this case, we're all on a stage and kind of in a line and you're not really like looking at one another. So that was a little bit awkward. But overall, it was nice doing it with Leah and Sharon. They're both amazing people. So that was fun. And then having a little crowd was also fun.
Yeah,
how about you?
It's nice to do it to an audience. Yeah, I agree. I think I would change the setup next time. I think I want to face the person. And that's what's really advantageous about doing it virtually. Even like us communicating, I think that was another thing. It was like, are you going to speak now? Like I couldn't really see you either. Whereas here, obviously, we learn social cues. Not that it stops us from interrupting each other and like coming in over the top of each other. But as you say, Tom and previously Jason have done a great job of editing out those slips. But yeah, I think the content was great and it's nice for people to see and be able to like contribute and, be there in the moment and listen to that conversation unfold.
Yeah, there was some nice questions actually. That live Q&A actually is quite a nice little feature that you don't normally get.
Yeah, nice.
Any other highlights before we wrap up?
I think probably Amanda for me. It's another one that unsurprisingly has like a lot of views. I think anytime a funder is speaking more sort of candidly and openly about their work, I think that's obviously going to draw in a lot of attention. But I think credit to Amanda, it was just much more relaxed than I'd anticipated. I think you expect funders to have this kind of front and maybe just be talking like quite formally about the process of how to apply or like, their selection criteria or something. And actually, I was just really pleased. It was very refreshing for me to hear her speak on like the challenges at OP and, the feedback that they've taken on and the challenges that they know they still face in terms of like communicating how to apply. And she actually spoke to this in a talk at Ava as well. It's just super helpful. Not only is there like these cultural barriers for groups who don't know the like ins and outs of how to like schmooze a funder. So when I think they can just be quite open and honest and it feels approachable now. I hope that following the episode, people felt like they could just go up to Amanda and say, hey, and introduce themselves. And I think she broke down a lot of barriers in that episode. And I really appreciated her candidacy there.
I also agree. Yeah, I think that was one of our most popular episodes to date. And also, similarly surprised at how open she was, and she's awesome. And also agree, her Ava talk was great. I think we can leave it there. That's a bunch of recommendations from Amy and I for various episodes, and we'll link them below potentially. We'll figure that out, but otherwise you can kind of scroll through your podcast player of choice and find them. But otherwise, yes, please fill out the form that we'll link below. We'd love your feedback. We'd love to hear what kind of people you want to hear, you want us to talk to, and how it can be most useful. Thank you everyone for listening, and have a nice next month or so.